Welcome to Dr. Katina Talks, the podcast where we explore the journey to a more fulfilling, balanced, and meaningful life. I'm your host, Dr. Katina, and I'm here to share stories, insights, and strategies that inspire you to live life more authentically. Today, I'm talking about forgiveness, not the polished version, not the easy version, but forgiveness as I've lived it. You've seen the butterfly, but you may not know what it took to get there. This is part of my story and the importance of forgiveness in my life. As a little girl, I remember hugs, kisses, silly dances. On the surface, it looked like family. Underneath, it was trauma-filled. But I didn't have the words for that back then. My dad, quiet, somber, always high, always with a 40-ounce Colt 45 or Old English beer in front of him. But he was my father, my only DNA connection in the home, and I felt his love without words. When I looked at his face, I saw mine, just older with a mustache. He couldn't be much of a father to me, or even a husband to her because he was fighting his own demons. But he wasn't violent. He wasn't unkind. His silence was heavy, but his presence, it was just enough for me, his little girl that he had at barely 15 years old. 8 days before my 8th birthday, my sister was born. Round cheeks, hazel eyes, I adored her. She became my shadow as soon as she could walk. Neighbors even called her that. But when school started, she was still my responsibility. I'd come home from school and she was handed to me. My grades dropped. My teacher sent notes home. I even complained. I can't do my homework and take care of her too. Something shifted for a little while, but it didn't last. That's when I learned early in my life what I needed would always come second, and my responsibility was to care for others. At 12, my father left for good. I remember the fight, the shouting, "Take your daughter with you." My dad reaching for me. Then I was pulled back. "You're not taking Tina anywhere." I didn't realize it then, but I wasn't staying out of love. I eventually learned I was staying because I was needed to care for my sister. 13 came, and so did the worst years. The yelling, the screaming, the disdain. A heavy glass Pepsi bottle thrown at my head so hard I could feel the lump rising instantly under my hand. The vile names I was called, the punches, the hatred with spittle spraying from the mouth. I was never allowed to forget that I was on the outside of the family being built. Her, her boyfriend, my sister, his 2 daughters. I was the oddball, the one who didn't belong. When that boyfriend crossed the line with me, I did what kids are told to do. I told. I expected protection. Instead, I got yelling, rage, and accusations. I wasn't believed. I was silenced. And from then on, the hatred for me only grew stronger. By freshman year, it was harder to hide. The black eye, the knots on my head. A counselor pulled me aside, tried to get social services involved. But inside, I was already breaking. By 15, I left. Not because I wanted to, but because if I stayed, I wasn't sure I'd survive. And despite what the rumor mill might say, I didn't cut ties. Even though I could have, I stayed connected. I respected. I kept silent because this was the family I was assigned to. Even now, when I share this, someone might call it gossip or exaggeration or say I'm trying to hurt someone. But that's not what this is. This is about me, about my healing. And one thing that these accusers need to remember is that my name is Dr. Katina Clark. I have a PhD in social psychology. I am a licensed mental health professional. So I am very qualified to identify trauma in others and in my own life. What happened in my childhood shaped me. How I learned to trust, how I loved, how I understood my worth. And I know my story isn't unique. Too many families laugh and gather at holidays while unresolved trauma sits right there at the table. And worse yet, when we confront the person who hurt us, we're told, "It didn't happen that way. You're making it bigger than it was." But my body remembers. My heart remembers. It was painful then, and it's still painful to recount. Now that I've told you the story, here's the point. This isn't about who hurt me. It's about what I did with that hurt, how I chose healing, how I chose forgiveness. What I just shared isn't only my story. Sadly, it's one that's replayed in many childhoods. If not yours, then maybe someone you know. And even if you were blessed with a loving, stable childhood, it's important to understand how early pain shapes people. Those early years become our blueprint for adult relationships. When caregiving is inconsistent or harmful, a child learns how to survive, but not always how to feel safe. In adulthood, it shows up everywhere. In the partner who constantly questions if they're loved, never feels secure, fears abandonment. In the coworker who keeps their guard up, struggles to trust, exhibits anger, or avoids friendships because safety never felt natural. In the parent who pours everything into their kids but still feels they're never enough because that was their childhood story. That's why resolving early trauma matters, because if you don't, it shapes every relationship you have. And healing isn't just self-searching, it's understanding, it's forgiveness. Not to release them, but to release yourself. Let me be clear. Forgiveness isn't about saying what happened was okay. Forgiveness is saying, I won't let what happened keep running my life. Your mind might say, I forgive, but your body remembers. It braces. It protects. Forgiveness is both the mind's choice to release resentment and the body's ongoing need for safety. Honor the first and respect the second. Now, I have 5 takeaways for you. 1. Forgiveness doesn't excuse the wrong. Wrong is still wrong. Abuse is still abuse. Neglect, it's still neglect. And one thing we must remember is forgiveness doesn't require an apology. I've often forgiven in my heart long before someone admitted what they did, because guilt and shame make people avoid you, minimize your pain, or defend themselves. Sometimes they flip the story, smear your name, make you the bad guy. And when others love the person who hurt you, they can't always see your pain through your eyes. They'll protect their loved one or themselves because admitting it would mean facing their own guilt for not seeing it and helping you. That's why those conversations rarely go anywhere. Often, when shame and guilt grow too heavy, they may distance themselves completely, cut you off, or cling harder to their version of the story. But none of that changes this. Hurt people often hurt other people. If they were emotionally healthy, they couldn't have hurt you the way they did. 2. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. Your body remembers a raised hand, a certain look, a harsh tone. That's not weakness, that's wiring. Forgiveness means learning to live with those memories without letting them control you. 3. Forgiveness is for you, not them. I didn't forgive to make anyone else comfortable. I forgave so I could breathe, love, raise my child in peace, and do the work I'm called to do. Forgiveness freed me from carrying a weight that was never mine to carry. 4. Forgiveness is strength, not weakness. It takes courage to step out of bitterness. Staying angry is easy. Healing is the hard part. Forgiveness isn't soft, it's power. And 5, forgiveness is a process. It's not one moment, but many. Some days you feel free. Other days you're triggered and have to forgive all over again. And when and if that happens to you, Remember that you are not failing at forgiving. You are being human. If I hadn't chosen forgiveness, I couldn't do the work I do today. I couldn't sit with clients and guide them toward healing. I couldn't have raised my daughter with the love she deserved or shared 30 wonderful years of marriage with my husband. If I had stayed in bitterness, my work would have been hindered, my growth stunted, my relationships damaged. Forgiveness isn't what made the past okay. It's what made my future possible. And maybe that's what you need to hear today. Forgiveness doesn't excuse, forget, or minimize. Forgiveness simply says, you cannot have my future. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If this episode spoke to you, see the journal prompts by visiting my website at DrKatinaTalks.com or in the show notes and spend some time with them. Healing isn't a straight line, but every step matters. Remember, forgiveness doesn't excuse, forget, or minimize. Forgiveness is for you. It's what allows you to live, to grow, to love fully. I know some of you are waiting for me to share my story, and I did promise that in season 2 I would. That time is coming, but for now you have what my body can safely share, and even that has the power to heal. If you found value in this conversation, share it with someone who might need it. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Until next time, keep living, keep healing, and keep walking toward your most authentic life. Bye for now.